Hello and a big welcome back to Level Up English. My name is Michael and today we're going to be looking at some modal verbs. Modal verbs are words like can, could, will, would, might, must, should. There's many of them, and that's exactly why they are so confusing. So I'm going to cover a couple of them today and try to make it much simpler for you. So with modal verbs, I always suggest that people learn them by the situation. So there's different situations in which we use modal verbs. Some of them are used for requests, some of them are used to ask for permission, and there's many different uses for all these modal verbs. And I think one really confusing thing is when they start to cross over and you can use the same modal verb to mean two or more different things. But today, I want to look at modal verbs for making requests. So when you want to request something from someone, you want to ask someone to do something for you, then you can use one of these modal verbs. So for example, if I said, give me the present. Hey you, give me the present. Perhaps in your language that's okay. Some languages are more direct, but in English, that would be a little bit rude if you said it that directly. So give me the present, it's grammatically correct, but most of the time, something like this will not be so polite. That is an order. Give me the present, you have no choice. So let's imagine you get on a train and you want to sit next to someone, but you want to ask for their permission first. So you're requesting as to whether you can sit in the seat next to them. You don't just say, I'm going to sit here. That's a bit rude. So we can say perhaps, could I sit here? Another one, can I sit here? Or may I sit here? And the final one is a bit longer. Would you mind if I sit here? So altogether, we've got can, could, may, and would, right? So these are the four modal verbs that you can use when you're requesting something from someone. You want to ask someone to do something for you. The most casual modal verb here is can. So can is the most casual. Can you help me? It's not bad, it's not rude, it's just slightly less casual. And slightly more polite would be could. So could is more polite than can. The next one up, I would say, is this phrase, would you mind? Would you mind? And I think the most formal, the most polite one is may. May you help me, for example. So we have can, could, would you mind, may. That's the order of politeness, in my opinion. For most situations, can could be perhaps too informal. May would probably be too formal. So the most common ones you will use are could and would you mind. Those are the two that I would recommend if you're not sure. But really it depends on the situation. So all of these can be possible, but in different situations we use different words. So let's go through some examples now. Let's imagine you're ordering a coffee at a cafe or restaurant. What do you think you would say? How would you order a coffee? I mean, there's many ways you can order, but using the modal verbs today, you could say, could I have a coffee? Could I have a coffee? Right, so you could also say can I have a coffee? That's no problem, it's not really rude. I think the most common is could. Could I get a coffee? That's the one I hear most often. We probably wouldn't say, would you mind if I got a coffee? Or may I have a coffee? Because when you're paying for something, it's kind of expected that you can get it. So when you're paying, usually you don't have to be so polite. If it's a service you're paying for, could I get a coffee is fine. Another example of when you're paying is imagine you sit in the back of a taxi and the driver of the taxi says, where would you like to go? and you can reply, can I go to the centre? Or could you take me home? Right, so can or could, they're not so different, but you're being a bit more casual here. If you said, may I go to the centre? I think that sounds a little bit too formal, because you're going to pay him, so you don't need to be so formal. If, however, you're asking a friend to give you a lift, or even worse, someone you don't really know, you're asking maybe a stranger to drive you somewhere, then you would want to be more polite. So you would say, would you mind if we went to the centre? Something more polite like that. What do you think you would say then if you're in a restaurant and you want to get the bill? How would you ask for the bill? Now, I know many countries I've been to where you just kind of shout bill. You go, bill, bill, or waiter, bill. In England, that's very rude. Some countries, it's polite, it's fine. In England, you should never do that. So the best way I would say is, again, you're paying for the service, so no need to be too polite, but you could say, could we have the bill, please? Or can we have the bill, please? These two are very similar, to be honest. So if you get could and can mixed up, it doesn't really matter so much. Okay, here's another one now. Imagine you're, well, especially if you're younger, but any age really, you're sitting around the table with your family, many family members eating dinner around the table. And you have finished and you want to go early so you can, go and play video games in your room, whatever. What do you think you would ask to be excused from the table? You want to excuse yourself, that means you want to leave the table. What would you say? I think it's quite rude to leave the table when other people are still eating. You should wait until they're finished. So because it's so rude, you want to be extra polite to make up for that. So you would probably say may, which I would say is the most polite. May I be excused, please? May I be excused? May I leave the table? You want to be very polite to show that you really understand that you're breaking the rules and being a bit rude. I'll give you one more example, and this is a hard one to finish now. Imagine maybe you see an attractive woman or an attractive man, and you want to ask them out on a date. In fact, you want to get their number. You want their number so you can text them and maybe, go on a date with them. See how things go. How do you think you would ask this person for their number? What would you say? Now, you might expect to say, may I have your number? Or would you mind if I get your number? Something like that. And I just want to say, these two are totally fine. I've heard them before. I've heard people say them before, and that's fine. So you can be very polite. However, when it comes to dating and approaching new people for, romantic interest, I think people like to pretend to be really confident. And the more polite you are, the more unsure you are as to what the other person will say. If you said, can I get your number? It sounds like you're much more certain that the person is going to say yes. Like, can I get your number? That sounds more casual, but also it sounds more confident. So I would say can would be the most common one here. If you said, on the other hand, would you mind if I got your number? It's very polite, but also it sounds like you have low confidence. Like maybe the other person will say yes, maybe they'll say no. You're not really sure. So it's very interesting. But I just want to end this short video and remind you that they're all very similar. It depends on the situation and you will learn it in time. So don't worry if you get them mixed up. The most important thing to remember is can, could, would, and may. Use all of these for making a request. Okay, thank you for watching this video on modal verbs. If you liked it and you want to see me continue this modal verb series, then please let me know because your support will guide my future videos. So thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. If you're interested, you can check out the full lesson for this YouTube video, where you can find live subtitles, worksheets, more detailed explanations, quizzes, and teacher feedback, and all of this around this video at Level Up English members. So if you're interested in that, you can click the link in the description or go to levelupenglish.school and go to the members page to sign up. But I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you find the bonus worksheets helpful as well. Thank you for watching.